It's Kat here, mortgage broker, and I have today with me.
Hi, I'm Sean Manning with eXp Realty.
Hey, thanks for joining me today,
You
Sean.
bet.
So Sean and I wanted to talk about a topic today. We wanted to talk about the difference between a mortgage banker versus a mortgage broker.
Yep.
And Sean, what were you going to talk about?
And having a realtor versus trying to sell yourself.
Awesome. Those are both very important topics and questions I get a lot about that. Well, why did I just sell it to myself? Why should I use a real estate agent?
Exactly.
So maybe I'll have you get started. So tell me a little bit about the difference between like some of the benefits of using a real estate agent
Sure.
versus selling it yourself.
I'd be happy to. Well, a lot of people approach it and say, you know what, I'm going to save some money, I'm going to sell it myself, right?
Okay.
But there's a lot of pitfalls that people are unaware of.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to list a couple that really demonstrate the advantage of why a real estate agent is the best way to go.
Okay.
First and foremost, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
You know, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I'm doing something that requires me to be contacting, be researching, be offering to do anything like that for my clients. I would assume most people have a full-time job, or they at least have a very busy schedule. And so you have to ask yourself, am I able to break away from what I'm doing? Am I in a meeting today, or did I have a doctor appointment? All of a sudden somebody says, I want to see your house right now. I have to see it. Can you break away to do that?
Yeah.
Probably not. Are you able to answer the phone 24/7? Because people will contact that number you put on there for sale by owner all hours of the day. That's pretty irritating.
So I guess you kind of get like a real estate agent kind of becomes like a filter, right? Like
Exactly.
kind of like those annoying text messages you get. I don't know. I've posted some things for sale on like Craigslist before, and then you get those text messages that say like, "Is this still available?" And you're like, "Yes," and you don't really know, and then you end up finding it's like some sort of spam or fraud or something.
And that's an unfortunate part. Like
Yeah.
anything that you're listing right now, whether it's a home or a car or even a pet or whatever, you get scam and spam all the time. And so you don't know what's legitimate. And you said a go-between for the real estate agent.
Yeah.
A real estate agent is a liaison between the buyer and seller, working with lenders, working with the appraiser, and getting that deal done.
Okay, cool.
So think about that. Next one is, agents have access to very large networks.
Okay.
They're in tune to MLS. They're also in tune to kind of the ebbs and flows of the market and the industry too.
Okay.
And they know who to approach. They have those resources where, somebody might list on Zillow, might list on Redfin or Craigslist.
Right.
But that's the extent of it. Like, there's nothing that goes further than that.
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense. Okay.
And even if you have a personal or professional network that's fairly large, are they really wanting to spend time to really kind of help you out with that sale? Probably not, right?
And I'm sure you probably, like, as a real estate agent, you probably have talked to other agents who are like, oh man, I'm really trying to find this specific property and I'm having a hard time finding it. And so if you work with an agent, like you may have other connections with other agents, are looking for something specific, and you can be like, I already know who wants to buy your house.
Definitely. And I love that about eXp, and actually about any of our real estate network, is that people are willing, as soon as you put that into a chat, hey, I got something for you. Or, hey, I have a buyer who's looking and I just saw your listing, and stuff can happen so fast because of that.
Okay.
If you're sitting there waiting for it to happen, it's not going to happen. You have to be proactive with it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next part is weeding out unqualified buyers. Very first question that real estate agents ask is, have you been pre-qualified?
Yeah.
Because you're spinning your wheels, wasting your time, trying to sell a house. If somebody's just a looky-loo, your neighbor interested in seeing what your interior looks like.
They just want to see what the inside of your house looks
Exactly.
like, or they want to see what it looks like in your neighborhood, and they don't necessarily have any intention of buying.
Right. Yeah. So, and that happens all the time. You look at even open houses, people come in just to see it.
Oh, I totally do.
And if you're actually, I do too. If people are calling you specifically without a real estate agent, and you have to sprint to get the house ready and then be in the house, and that's I'll different scenario anyway, because
true.
the buyers hate
like
that.
who's going to be like, you have to be your own agent, so you
Right.
have to like show them your house and pretend like you're not objective about like the things that you've done to make it your home.
Yeah,
So
and one of the huge risks with that is actually a legal risk, because you might look over something that you've looked over for years in your house, or gloss over it because you know it exists, but you don't want to let that buyer know, right?
Well, don't look underneath the kitchen sink.
Exactly.
Don't look at that problem.
What do you mean it's
there.
collapsing due to leaky pipes, right?
Yeah.
So, so let's say you make the deal, right? And you're doing it on your own, and then when the buyer moves in, there's a huge problem that wasn't disclosed. You could be liable for fraud. You could be liable for the damages. You could have to return the entire cost of that house, and it could be problematic. The nice thing about using a realtor is, even if there was a mistake like that, let's say it was glossed over, but it was an accident. There's some liability insurance that your broker or your real estate agent has that will protect you as a home seller, and will appease the buyer if there is an issue, because they're getting something taken care of, right?
Rather than being like, hey, I'm stuck with this house, it's a lemon.
Exactly.
They can say, hey, we can fix this thing. We have liability insurance to cover the issue.
For sure.
Okay, that's a really great point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Last but not least is price negotiation. So anytime you're selling a home, and if, let's say I'm selling my own home, right? And I'm not an agent. I have a vested interest in trying to get the best price I can, but it's an emotional process, right? Maybe I love that home. I grew up there or something. So now I want the world, and buyers aren't going to be willing to do that. So you need somebody who has a logical approach and an unbiased approach to what the true cost and value of your property is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Honest input for any repairs that need to be done. Dealing with the emotional side on both, right? Little psychologist sometimes. And you know what? It makes the process so much easier. So that's what real estate agents are there for. We love to help. And honestly, if you're not spending 6 months trying to sell a house, you're going to be much happier. So. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, all of those points you make a lot of sense, especially about some of the liability stuff. I'm a huge I don't like risks at all. So that's something I didn't even think about. The fact that you could possibly be liable if something goes wrong. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yep.
Well, I can go over just the difference between a mortgage banker versus a mortgage broker.
Please, I've always been interested.
Yeah, kind of talk about the difference between them and why, of course, maybe I might be biased, but why using a broker can make a lot more sense than a mortgage banker. And I've been on both sides of it. So some of my history, I used to work for a large bank. I worked on the banking side of things and did the origination on that side. So I worked in like a contact center where I would just take calls all day from people who are looking to buy a house or looking to refinance. And so got a lot of that repetition, which was awesome. I got really good at my job, really good at understanding and reading guidelines and doing all of that. But there were some disadvantages that I didn't realize until I moved over to being a mortgage
Tell me
broker.
A little bit about those disadvantages.
So let's talk a little bit about the difference between them, just so our audience can kind of understand. So a mortgage banker lends with their own money. They fund with their own pocketbook. So places like Bank of America, Rocket Mortgage, Wells Fargo, like any of your bigger banks, even credit unions, will lend with their own money. And so they can make their own kind of rules and everything for the loans, which I'll go into in a minute.
Cool.
A mortgage broker completes the loans on behalf of other lenders. So they go out and they might have like 10 to 15 lenders that they can go through and grab based on your specific scenario and what you need. We can find a loan that will fit with your criteria, and then they underwrite the loan and they fund the loan. So we just kind of like are the messengers back and forth when they tell us what they need. And
well, it sounds like you're also a liaison.
I am a liaison.
I think that's today's word of the day.
Liaison. Yeah. I'm gonna pop that up on the screen. So I guess the difference then would be to talk about why would you want to use a banker versus a broker. So for using a banker, if you have a relationship with the bank, so let's say that you have quite a bit of money with Bank of America, and you have that relationship with them. You're looking to purchase a house, and let's say it's a jumbo loan, which they're really, really good and competitive on pricing on jumbo loans. They may offer you a discount, maybe even take a loss on lending you a jumbo loan at a lower rate because they want to keep your business.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is there's risk of, if they see any door open, that they want to close that door.
Yeah, they want to just make sure like you are happy with them, you're happy with the service they provided, the rates they provided. Like they want you to just go out and, you know, spread the word that their bank is amazing and they take care of you.
Okay.
So it makes a lot of sense for them to make sure that you stay happy as a client and that you continue to tell other people that you're happy. So some of the disadvantages with that is typically they have a slower process because there's a lot more hands in the cookie jar. You have a lot of different layers of leadership, management, underwriter 1, 2. Like you have a lot of processes that are happening there. Typically they have product overlays. So because it's their own money, they can also take a program and add extra rules on top of it. So let's say that the credit score option for an FHA loan is technically 580. Well, Bank of America or another big lender could say, well, we won't do anything below 600.
Gotcha.
So they can add an extra overlay for credit minimums.
Okay.
They also can have certain programs that aren't available or they don't lend on, and they won't discuss them as an option.
Can you name one? I think I know which one you're talking about, but
so USDA is
that's the one.
Is the one that we do. That actually, when I worked for a big bank, I had no idea. People would come to me and be like, well, what about that 100% financing program in like rural areas? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, who does that? Yeah, that's not us. That's not a thing. And so I didn't realize until I came over to the broker side and started doing some research that like that is an option through a broker.
That's a great option for this area too. I mean, you know, you have the Salem area, you have some cities, but there's so many smaller communities outside. In fact, I live out there, and I didn't even know about USDA loans, so that would have been something to talk to.
Right, exactly. There's some requirements and stipulations about where it is and what's considered rural, but an awesome program that, like, if I would have known that was an option back when I was a banker, I would have probably sent my clients to a broker. So that's another thing is a lot of bigger banks typically have like hours of operation. They typically are getting a base pay and hourly pay. They're not typically commission only. And so they might have certain hours they work, and a lot of times those hours don't work for you.
True.
I've had that happen many times where I've talked to clients who have worked with a banker before, and they're like, hey, like I work till 5, today just isn't going to work. I'll have to talk to my next day off is this day. And I'm like, oh, well, what are you doing after 5? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, let's talk tonight after you're done with work. I work when you work. Or let's talk on Saturday when you have the day off, and let's do the things. So as
very
a broker,
very important.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, if you find your true property and you have to wait 2 days, you're not going to have the true property, right?
Especially usually houses have they have a deadline for like when the offers need to be in by. And if you can't get a hold of your person who's supposed to like update that pre-approval letter and run your numbers, then you could be in a bad place and possibly lose your house. So that's for banker world. So for broker, like I said, we work with many different lenders to qualify you. We have a lot of different programs. We typically have less overhead costs. A lot of brokerage shops are usually smaller, so they have less overhead. You may not have like 5 layers of managers to get to the top of the company. I think between where I am and where the top of my company is, there's like 3 people ahead of me total to get to the CEO of the company. It's kind of awesome to be able to have that like pull, the top of the top. So if you have a situation where you need to like get an exception for pricing to match a big bank that maybe is doing a jumbo loan that you're getting beat on, then you might have the flexibility to pull on the pricing to try to match a lender.
That's awesome.
So yeah, typically also brokers are generally local to your area. Not always, but typically local to your area. So somebody who knows your community, is well connected, maybe knows other professionals in the real estate industry who can kind of help you with things and
back to that
everything.
Network. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Networking. As far as disadvantages, really the only one I could think of was just that relationship discount that you might get if you have a banking relationship. But again, that's really, it just really depends on a lot of factors. It's possible we can still match.
For sure.
Yeah. So
that would be fantastic. So I know that I want options.
Yeah.
You know, and the more options to fit my specific need, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm limited, if it's slow, that's not how I want to roll.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the brokerage side is the better side.
Yeah.
So.
I personally think it is. So yeah. Well, that's what I had, Sean. Do you want to wrap us up with anything there? Any other final thoughts on kind of, all of this? So
just the final thought is real estate is your biggest transaction you're ever going to have.
Yeah, it's
right?
true.
And so having a professional in your pocket, is that the right word? Maybe not.
Maybe. I don't know.
Holding your hand through the process. There you go.
Holding your hands through the process.
Holding your hand through the process is the way to go, because there are so many ups and downs emotionally. There's so many things to consider that unless you're, in that business, you're not going to know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, that's
so
true.
we really want to be on top of it for you. We try to make that process as streamlined as possible, and make your goals, make your dreams come true.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Sean.
For sure.
Super educational.
Always love it.
Let's keep doing more of these. So, on behalf of me and Sean, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next video.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.